Yeah, so 5 years, aspirations, what would you like to see Ngāpuhi look like?
5 years to a 500 years. I can't wait until every Ngāpuhi, mokopuna, mātāpuna, tupuna are revealed as the Ngāpuhi individuals that they are. Thinking about the size of us, the volume of Ngāpuhi, whether it's 200,000, 500,000, whatever the number is, when somebody is logged into who they are, both culturally, intellectually, emotionally, when you're logged in, you're already a little army on your own. So you combine all of that with the other 699,000 Ngāpuhi, you have the might to rule and design your world. That's what I want. And so if I drop that into, so what does that look like in a house, in a home, in a whare, in a hapu, in a marae? It is knowing those things, knowing your name, knowing your tupuna's names, knowing the places that they went to get kai, knowing the ways in which they harvested and prepared kai, know the homes and the houses in which that sector, we were debaters. We debated, we politicised, we designed from that sector of our Ngāpuhi life. Over here, there were the creatives and all these whakairo and all of that kind of design. That whare took care of those aspects of being Ngāpuhi. So if we put all of those up, we're like, we can rule and design our own world.
Pretty unstoppable.
It is unstoppable. I don't aspire to that. I expect that to be. It's more than an aspiration. We can expect that on this whenua, because I can't expect that when I lived in Japan, but I can expect it here. So, koina.
Tēnā koe. Mātua Korotangi.
Tēnā koe. I've lived in Ngāpuhi longer than I lived in Waikato. Now, 20 plus years. So, I roto te whare. Ngāpuhi, tēnei ka mihi. My observations for the next 5 years, my observations now and my forecast for the next 5 years would be that the conversations that we have around whakairo and the application of that as a normal conversation at every marae committee, at every board of trustees, on kura, that all of our babies have the opportunity to have those conversations at an early age. By the time they get to me in their 40s and 50s, they're looking after their bodies. They got tennis elbow, they got a hip from rugby league, or a calf injury, and they're not running at 100%, and it becomes seen as a practice in your later years. And pai tēnā, but often I find the men and women that come into our carving shed, it is, why didn't I start this earlier? When I was 15, 16. I'm only now starting to understand myself through this wheel called whakairo. So I would put the affirmation in the space of our tamariki right there. When they're learning how to wash their hands and brush their teeth, they're learning around what is kōwhaiwhai, what is raranga, what is tukutuku. And it's in all of those powers that are in those things. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the kōrero, right? So ngā kōrero tuku iho. Actually, we were just talking about this at a tangihanga yesterday with Matua Renata Tāne. And so his son, Renata Te Tua Aharaini, he kai whakairo, he kai whao. And so they were talking about, Renata, your job is to put all that kōrero that your father has taught you and start to feed it into your taonga of whakairo. Hei kapo, hei pupuri tonu ki aua tikanga, aua akoranga katoa. And their tamariki, and think about our tamariki and the akoranga his own tamariki have. If we take it back to anei te wā, right? And we're teaching our tamariki aua tikanga katoa that comes with whakairo, tuku, rāranga, me ki, And of course, I know your mokopuna decisions, always, ake tonu atu, participate. And I know movers and shakers, mai rāno, but how would you feed into their kaupapa?
So when we're I'd want to feed into it, participate in it in every opportunity that is provided, like kaupapa like this, like when we have a gig like this. And I think that's, so that might seem obvious, but I think it's being able to create and access those opportunities that are more simplified. So it doesn't, the logistics aren't so big that it doesn't always enable that to happen. So making these moments ordinary.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. So it makes it an ordinary thing to have an ordinary conversation and participate in something about Ngāpuhi, right? And therefore I think it's upon the system, like a Ngāpuhi system, such as the Runanga and others, it's to go and seek those from our whānau, like ordinarily. Do you know, like, so it's not, it's having a simple cup of tea or conversation in your kitchen, your sitting room. So it's the way, and I think those conversations generally are safer, do you know, because they're just, here's you and me, we're just sitting on a couch and we're having a kōrero. But we're actually having a Ngāpuhi kōrero. Even though we might not use the name, but we are having a Ngāpuhi conversation because we are innately Ngāpuhi. So there's no other way I can have a conversation. Te pēnei te reo te wahine, he wahineu, he wahine koe. So we are ordinarily and naturally being wahine. We're not standing going, wahineu, e hara tēnā. So I think participation in itself even has to be thought about in a different way. So whether families whānau are thriving or whether they're barely surviving, that in a strange way is participating. It's the way in which we engage and capture that, not in a respectful and proper way, because then that's how we know what our part is in it. That's what I think I've that's my first cut to the question, because I even the most broken of us, the most hauarea, have something to say, and it's probably in the most broken stories that you tell your story that then people, that's me participating. I might be broken, I might barely be able to speak through my tears, but I am participating. So I think it's the way we even understand what participation means. Because if it is, then it's only the most able that can participate, as opposed to the most broken that it just can't even get up to even understand what that means. So that's I want to make those comments.
Absolutely. And actually on that, I was talking to a whaia earlier. I said to her, come and have a kōrero with me in the caravan, talk about your aspirations for our iwi. And she says to me, I'm a working bee, I'm not a queen bee. I was like, whaia, I don't want the queen bees, girl. I know where the mahi happens and it's the working bees that are doing the mahi. Come on. And she goes,
that trauma's been around for years. And it took that point to get that. So to get to this point now. So that's what I'm reflecting on.
Absolutely.
That's what I mean by, if only they had a voice to participate. I'm not complaining their participation and the able. I'm not saying that's a bad in any way, but it's probably the stories that you're ever likely to hear.
Absolutely. Looking at Ngāpuhi Iwi Social Services, which is the establishment that we get this beautiful wene from, is kapo ana ia a kōrero. How do our whānau think? How do our whānau feel? And how do we actually enable them to be feeling safe to tell their kōrero, even though they're feeling vulnerable as heck, and then understanding what that participation looks like. Kaputi is always a goodie. Hononga, connections and everything.
Tikana. I find myself in spaces where predominantly men working and working together over popo, digging a hole in a swamp to find paru so we can soak our raranga in, so we can get different colours within our kete. So these are all kinesthetic learners, right? But at the same time, we're all having discussions about our childhood, being fathers, so fatherhood, and now in our kaumātuatanga, what does that look like with raising mokopuna? And we all wish that being grandfathers, that we could have been fathers like we are grandfathers. You know, you improve on that model. And so the model that I'm wanting for our daddies now is mentorship with kaumātua.
Ngāpuhi Social Services wants Ngāpuhi mokopuna to be safe, secure, healthy and connected to whakapapa. What do you see as important activities for Ngāpuhi iwi Social Services to support Ngāpuhi tamariki mokopuna?
When I listened to the numbers this morning, in the kōrero whamerana, and obviously have an awareness of those numbers, it's still a shocking thing to hear, you know, the many that are trapped in the churn of an institution such as SIFS. So my first plea and my first battle is that we get them out. You rescue them. We bring them home, right? That's because it's the most vulnerable that we have to think about first. I do when I hear that question, because there are too many under siege in that institution, in the churn, right? And then the second number of 12,000 coming down the pipeline. And the worst but truthful thing about that statement is that is exactly how it occurs. It is like a pipeline. Now, I know some of my ex-colleagues from SIFS and Orangatamari, they might be squirming a bit in this when I'm talking like this, but they know it's true. They know it's true because I worked in that system and I saw it and understood it and battled it and got sacked. Well, left before that mess happened.
Yeah.
But the point being that that's for our mokopuna that are the most vulnerable right now in that institution and that churn. Bring them out, rescue, prepare, right? None of that means that there are in our whānau mokopuna that do need to be in the arms of others. Of course I get that. I know that too. I have a reputation on my street and in my community where I live that if I see and hear our mokopuna, that I can, in homes all up my street, I just roll over, knock on the door, kia ora. Someone comes to the door. Yeah, and I go, you all right? Yeah, and I go, I put out my hand on Mariameno. I said, I can hear what's happening. I've lived on the street for 100 years. That's not going to happen. I'm stepping in. Step in and literally say, what's your mother's number? I ring the mother. This is standing right in front of this young fellow. And I remember thinking how when I took that tone and when I kind of just wrapped up the way I did, he responded and he gave me his mother's number. I rang her and I said, fine, I'm standing in your boy's house. The babies they need you now. You need to come. So she came. So that's a description of the kind of reputation I have about I will step in on any mokopuna that I hear needs to be made safe. Yep. So none of what I say prior in terms of the numbers means that I don't accept the fact that there have been our mokopuna that are unsafe. Of course I do. But that's not the place that they should go at all. It should be in the arms of our own that are ready and prepared and have the method and system to receive them, love them, and they be back with their whānau. So that's the first thing I want to say about it. In terms of nis and nis, the role of nis, that's the first thing. And that was so clear when Mane and Moana and Alva and sat at the table at the select committee, which of course I sat in the opposite side, listening to their position. So already in a political and legislative challenging way, Ngāpuhi is already bringing the fight. That was a perfect and good way to show up on the steps of Parliament and to bring the case into the House and Select Committee. We need at least that magnified 100 times,
Mm.
right? Right, up and out. So that's in a looking for and creating space that we look after our mokopuna that need that care. For our many of our mokopuna who are in thriving and loving and safe and powerful places, just because whānau are their own solution. They don't need anyone like they don't need it. If they're thriving and fine and mighty and beautiful, all they need this to do is to I guess acknowledge that there are whānau that are powerful and doing great. But tell those stories too. That story needs to be known. I'm just spinning the question again a little bit more. Sorry, Sophie, I wanted to make sure I wanted to. There are a number that need support and there are a number that are good to go. And that's where I think in terms of why wouldn't our mokopuna that have an eye for art be provided a performing arts school built by Ngāpuhi, personed by Ngāpuhi, and develop that. Why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't one of our mokopuna who will be an astronaut one day, why wouldn't we prepare for that? Why wouldn't we plan for that? Right? So there's those are the things that I think if it's not, that's the Ngāpuhi that I look for when our mokopuna are in the centre of all the decisions that we make, every single decision that we make, that we see them. Yeah.
Tēnā koe.
Mariameno. Our mokopuna are Ngāpuhi. So that's how I see myself contributing into their space, being the best papa, the best koro, the best koko that I can be. The conversations are always around mokopuna. Mokopuna I te tuatai. Mokopuna. You are both wearers of moko. Those are conversations that should be naturally whakapapa based as your kauai are. And just to acknowledge that and also, vote whānau. Vote. I've been at many marches in my life. Often now what I'm seeing now is whānau who wear particular clothing, fly particular flags, are there every march, but they don't vote. I found that hard case. So I'm saying vote whānau, vote for who you want to see in those spaces. Comes from voting on the board of trustees at school, right up to our central government and all of those things that matter.
That answer was very cool. It was like really cool. I'm like, typical, goes all the way over there. Korotangi goes bang. And but it's perfect because it just we know why a lot of our whānau don't. They wear the t-shirt bang, and I get it, but they don't vote. And we know why. We understand why. Because the system is such an untrustworthy system. Why on earth would I even bother to engage? So the sad and horrible fact of the matter is that system is designed that holds the power, it makes legislation, and it holds the pūtea, overall. So just those aspects of it, in my view, despise it as you might, to be able to influence, like deeply influence, is to vote. It sounds crazy, but it is true. And it's true. And both Korotangi and I, and as we've that's been a big push for us. But what we have noticed in the previous election is the numbers of young ones voting, they voted.
If we want results for our whānau, where does the pūtea sit? Enable our whānau to thrive. And it's not always about pūtea, but they definitely help, especially with the services that we provide. But yeah, one thing I was just like, all of the ugly things that happen in that space, right? But the beautiful outcomes of our people getting down to do the mahi.
Yeah.
I voted for you, by the way.
That means I've got to work for you.
But yeah, so we look at our priorities
Yeah.
as a whānau, as a iwi, and then making ourselves uncomfortable in some spaces because, hello, as I said, I'm not a political person, but to understand where and what our government is doing, which also trickles down to all of our services, eh?
See, I think you are political, though. That's the point I want to make, because I think this is a political conversation.
Yeah.
In every conversation, that's what the point Korotangi is making. When we think we're being ordinarily Māori, that's very political.
Yeah.
When you go to the marae and we're arguing the elections, that's extremely
Absolutely.
political.
Yeah.
So it's just how the terminology, it makes it like it's all the way over there and that's for Pākehā people. Man, I think we have some of the most powerful politicians. My tupuna, E Paraima Mutu Kapa, was in the 11th Parliament, right?
Yeah.
I am in the 54th Parliament.
Sheesh.
Right? But when he was in the 11th Parliament, he was also on Māori Parliament. So there was Māori Parliament then and this Parliament, and he was on both. So I think but I just to go back to, I used to be on the NIS board.
Yeah.
And because my whole work has been working with mokopuna and whānau since I was 16. My first job, I worked for Rape Crisis, and I worked predominantly with Māori wahine back then to now. So that's, I'm 60 plus. So, and I committed then that my work would be listening to, doing my best, being helpful, advocating and striving to have our mokopuna and their tupuna safe. And then years go by, and then I have the gift of getting onto the NIS board with Liz and Mike Kake and others and all the work that they've done. And it was a natural place for me to land on that board, and I loved being there. Of course, I can't be there now, and Tipane's on there now, so but I get the piece of what NIS in its core business is, which is about mokopuna, which is about mokopuna. Mokopuna come with tupuna.
Absolutely.
And tupuna come with mokopuna.
Yeah.
So it's such a wonderful and perfect cycle. So that's the focus for me.
Yeah.
That's the focus when I was at 16, when I was at 26, and now 63. That is still the focus. The fact that my jobs have changed, that's something else. But that's where I'm strong, and I'm unbeatable in that argument.
But i runga i tēnā, I'm just so grateful and thankful for this kōrero that we've shared today. And no doubt our whānau from Ngāpuhi are going to hear this as well. And we'll obviously get them to thinking too. It's like, oh, there's this and then there's that. And then actually, what the heck are we doing? In terms of getting involved ourselves. Participating, and not necessarily in the way like, hello, I'm over here, but having those conversations, creating a space to have conversations and being safe in that space too. Because I think safety and being vulnerable, like seeing people vulnerable, I'm just like, oh, I love that. I love it. And because that connection, because the truth hurts, eh? That when you talk about
empowering,
it is, absolutely. Absolutely. But that's the thing is like if we hide behind the staunched ahua that we all have to put up sometimes, we don't have to, but we do, we all do it. But there's those whakaro, the learning and the space and kōrero that it creates or lets people to have, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So mihi marikana kia korua tahi. Thank you so much for joining me today.